Welcome back to The Explainer. We're so glad you're here. History isn't just some straight line drawn in a textbook. It's more like a deeply layered tapestry where profound human achievements, devastating conflicts, and major societal shifts often share the exact same calendar day across entirely different years. So today, we're going to journey through a single day in history, uncovering how these completely distinct milestones reflect the incredible, chaotic breadth of the human experience. Now, you might be wondering, what on earth links a historic baseball debut, a grim execution, and a record-breaking swim? I mean, on the surface, these sound like completely random events just pulled from thin air, right? But they're actually bound together by the exact date they occurred. They form this vibrant and honestly sometimes startling timeline of human milestones. By looking at them side by side, we get a really unique snapshot of what was prioritized, celebrated, or endured during different eras of our past. Okay, let's dive into this with our first section, military milestones and conflicts. Throughout American history, the way we prepare for, fight, and experience war has constantly evolved. And this specific date holds some absolutely crucial markers of that evolution. We're going to start way back in 1819. On this day, Norwich University was founded in Vermont. And hey, this wasn't just any school. It was the very first private military school in the United States. That is a massive precedent. Before this, military education was pretty much exclusively the domain of the federal government, like West Point. But the establishment of Norwich introduced a whole new pathway for citizen soldiers to get formal, structured military training. It literally laid the groundwork for the ROTC programs we see on college campuses all over the country today. Now, what's really interesting here is how rapidly we can track the progression and the geographic spread of the American Civil War over just a few short years, all tied to this exact date. In 1861, we see a Union military camp established in Lexington, Kentucky, which is wild because Kentucky was actually a neutral state at the time, highlighting those really complex, shifting borders of the early conflict. Fast forward exactly 1 year to 1862, and the focus shifts to naval warfare, with the Confederate ironclad Arkansas taking heavy damage in a Union attack. Then jump to 1864, and the strategic map shifts all the way down to the Gulf Coast, where Confederate forces are forced to evacuate Fort Powell in Mobile Bay, Alabama. So that's 3 years, 3 totally distinct theaters of war, all tied to the exact same day on the calendar. Moving into the 20th century, we hit the immense, staggering historical weight of 1914. While the United States officially maintained its neutrality at the outbreak of World War I, individual Americans were out there making their own choices. On this exact day, a man named Dennis Patrick Dow Jr. enlisted in the French Foreign Legion. By doing so, he officially became the very first American to fight in World War I. But you know what? His legacy didn't stop in the trenches. He actually later transferred to aviation to become the first American fighter pilot in the war. That is a massive milestone in global conflict. It's the precise moment American blood and American volunteers began to intertwine with the tragedy unfolding across Europe years before the U.S. government would officially enter the fray. Let's transition over to our next section, progress, punishment, and expansion. Let's shift our focus away from the battlefield for a second, because, history isn't just made by armies. It's made by societies pushing boundaries, expanding territories, and setting new precedents. This right here brilliantly illustrates the stark juxtapositions of history, because both of these events happened on the exact same day in 1890. Over in Cleveland at League Park, a future baseball legend named Cy Young steps on the mound to make his Major League Baseball debut. It's a day of new beginnings, sportsmanship, and the national pastime. But meanwhile, over at Auburn Prison in New York, we see a very grim reality. A convicted murderer named William Kemmler becomes the very first person in history to be executed by the electric chair. Two entirely different human extremes. One athletic triumph, the other a somber technological precedent and capital punishment happening simultaneously. 11 years later, in 1901, another major societal shift occurs, this one related to American expansion and Native American sovereignty. On this date, Kiowa land, located in Oklahoma, was officially opened for white settlement. This specific event effectively dissolved the contiguous reservation that the Kiowa people had held. It remains a key date in the broader, complex timeline of westward expansion and the systemic dismantling of indigenous landholdings by the federal government at the turn of the century. Okay, to break up some of the heaviness of those societal shifts, let's look at how history is sometimes made simply by the sheer chaotic force of nature. 26.7 centimeters. That staggering number represents the state record for rainfall, set on this very day in 1905 at Princeton, Indiana. I mean, that is a massive amount of water to fall in a single day. It's a pretty great reminder that while we human beings are busy fighting wars and building societies, the natural world is always operating on its own awesome, unstoppable scale. Let's move on and see how this builds into our final section, triumphs in sports and endurance. Let's pivot toward incredible feats of physical endurance and human achievement. We're going to anchor back to that 1890 baseball milestone we talked about a few moments ago. Cy Young wasn't just casually making an appearance for the Cleveland Spiders. The guy was announcing his arrival to the world. He threw an incredible three-hitter, securing a dominant 8-1 win over the Chicago Colts. But what I absolutely love about this historical record is the humanity in it. Young's very first career error actually led to Chicago's only run. It proves that even the absolute greatest of all time, the man whose name is now literally the award given to the best pitchers in baseball, started his legendary career with a slight, very human mistake. Speaking of pushing the limits of the human body, take a look at this: 27 hours and 25 minutes. Just think about the sheer agony and endurance that number represents. This wasn't a relaxing weekend activity, folks. This was a grueling, nonstop battle against ocean currents, freezing water, and total, complete exhaustion. So, the crucial point is that 27+ hours was the time it took for Henry Sullivan to swim across the English Channel, from Dover, England, to Calais, France, on this day in 1923. This monumental effort made Sullivan only the third person ever in recorded history to achieve this feat and the very first American. It is an absolute masterclass in determination, proving once again that historical milestones aren't just won on battlefields, they're won by individuals refusing to give up in the face of seemingly impossible physical odds. Well, we have covered a ton of ground in this explainer, from the first private military school and the bravery of the first American World War I fighter pilot to a historic baseball debut, extreme weather, and the opening of reservation lands. So I want to leave you with this question to ponder. Which of these milestones do you think had the most lasting impact on our world today? Does a shift in military education ripple further than the first electric chair? Does a record-breaking swim inspire more than a record-breaking pitch? It is all connected in the fabric of this single day in history. Thanks so much for joining me on this deep dive, and keep questioning how the past continues to shape our present.